Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. Now look at Part 1.
Part 1.
You are going to listen to the director of a college talking about his school. Listen to the talk and answer the questions.
First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 3. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 3.
Many of you already have a reasonably firm idea of the general subject area you wish to study. Others are more open and searching for ideas. Whatever your situation, I hope you find that we have a course that meets your needs. Our firm aim is to be a student-centred institution with a special emphasis on flexibility. This begins with our attitude to access. We judge people on their motivation and commitment to study as much as, if not more than, formal qualifications. This is reflected in the vitality and diversity of our student population. Some of our students come direct from sixth form or college.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 4 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 4 to 10.
Others are coming into higher education after a short or long gap from formal education. Some are seeking a specific set of skills with a particular job or profession in mind. Others are retraining or studying to give their careers a new direction or dimension. Some are learning about the very latest scientific, technological and commercial knowledge. Others are stretching their minds on sensitive environmental, social and cultural issues. Even a casual observation of the mix of our student body indicates that we're close to our aim of being a polytechnic for the whole community. To meet our students' needs, we have 500 academic and a further 500 support staff committed to good quality teaching, high standards, and sensitive and sympathetic student care. We have probably the longest experience of understanding and dealing with the differing needs of a diverse student population. I hope you'll find a suitable course at the Polytechnic College. If you want to come to the college and we consider you suitable, we'll do our best to find you a place. And when you're here, we'll work hard to make your experience enjoyable, stimulating, and educationally rewarding.
That is the end of Part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 2.
Part 2.
You will hear the Overseas Student Officer talking to some new students about the arrangements for an excursion to Ironbridge.
First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Hello everyone, my name is Pamela Sutcliffe and most of you already know that I'm the Overseas Student Officer here at Salopian Technical College. Next Tuesday, the 28th of September, we have arranged an excursion for all new students to the important historical town of Ironbridge. We are hoping you'll all come because not only is the history of Ironbridge very important and interesting, but also an excursion like this is a relaxed and fun way to get to know each other. Ironbridge is about 55 kilometres from here, and we'll be travelling by the college bus, which holds 40 people. If there are more than that, we'll bring a couple of staff cars as well, though I might ask you to indicate on the list if you have a car and would be willing to take a couple of passengers. The list I'm referring to is up there on the student notice board, and if you would like to come on Tuesday, would you please add your name as soon as possible? By the way, could you please print your name clearly? I know some people have wonderful signatures, but often I'm afraid I can't read them, which can cause problems. So if we need extra transport and you could bring your car, can you tick the car column next to your name? Could you also add your student number and your telephone number, just in case there are any last-minute changes and we have to contact you? The other information I need to give you is about lunch. There's a very nice little restaurant in Ironbridge which gives a 15% discount to the college when we bring groups. That means lunch is only about £4, and they do good vegetarian meals too, so it's usually no problem for those of you on special diets. But if you prefer to eat your own food, that's fine too, either on the bus or in the park. But I'd encourage you to try the restaurant. Now, talking of costs, I should tell you that the bus will only cost you £10, and if you bring your car, we'll pay for the petrol, so you get a free trip in return for driving there. Will you please sign up by Saturday at 6 p.m. at the latest? The list is closed after that. We will depart at 9:30 a.m. sharp on Tuesday morning, so please make sure that you arrive at least 15 minutes before so that you can find a seat and get settled on the bus.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
The college bus garage is behind the engineering workshop. It's quite easy to find. If you come here to the Student Union building, then walk east down the avenue until you get to the childcare centre on your left, and then turn left and walk past the sports centre and the tennis courts, which are both on your left. Cross over Central Square, and opposite you is the engineering workshop. Walk around the back and you'll see the bus. Please wear comfortable shoes, as we'll be walking around Ironbridge and be on our feet for most of the day. Wear a warm jacket, and you might like to bring an umbrella and a backpack to put them in if the weather's warm and sunny, which we hope it will be, but of course we can't guarantee that. Certainly bring your cameras and any snacks or drinks for the bus journey there and back, which should take about an hour and a half each way. You should all check the notice board on Monday and we'll also put a note in your mailbox to confirm arrangements, so don't forget to check it. Now, why are we visiting Iron Bridge? Well, Iron Bridge, as the name suggests, has got the original iron bridge. That is, the first ever iron bridge in the world. It was the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, and for 40 years it led the world, as Britain changed from an agricultural society into an industrial one. It's hard to imagine today that this pretty, sleepy little tourist town was one of the most important places in England for over a century. Just imagine, 200 years ago, people from all over Europe and even North America came to Iron Bridge to learn about what was then the latest technology. Today it is listed as a World Heritage Site by the United Nations, as they consider the unique collection of industrial monuments rank it alongside the Grand Canyon, the pyramids and the Great Barrier Reef. One place that's fun to visit is Blist Hill, which is a reconstruction of a small Victorian industrial town where people are working and living as they did 100 years ago. I hope you'll enjoy the day. It's been a very popular excursion in previous years, so I'm looking forward to going again next Tuesday. Now don't forget to put your name on the list as soon as possible.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
Part 3.
You will hear two business studies students discussing a presentation they'll do on an article on working effectively in groups. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen and answer questions 21 to 26.
So, Brad, what did you think of the article on group work?
Oh, hi, Helen. Yeah, it was pretty good, with helpful pieces of advice on how to make group work effective.
I think we were lucky to be given such a straightforward text to present at the management skills seminar.
Yeah. Actually, shall we discuss it now? Have you got time?
Sure. It's only a 10-minute presentation, so we just need to explain and then give our views on the main points raised in the article.
I'll jot down some notes. Right.
So, there are 3 main sections. I suggest we start with listening.
Yeah, effective listening in groups, because it's not something that's frequently covered on courses in our field.
No, and we should say that in the presentation.
Yeah. And also effective listening's pretty simple, you know. I don't think it's hard to learn.
Well, people think it's easy, but in my experience, most of us tend to be very lazy listeners.
Okay, I wouldn't argue with that.
Something I do think we should emphasize is the power of the listener's posture, gestures, etc., in making speakers feel respected.
Not that you're just waiting for them to finish before jumping in with your own ideas.
Uh-huh.
Okay, right. The next section is on goal setting. Let's make sure we're clear what the article says on this.
Yeah. Well, firstly, it says that all group members must be given time to explain their own goals.
That's it, yeah.
And then did it say that the whole group should agree on common goals?
That's a bit too strong. It's more that everyone's agendas should be equally acceptable. But it does say that goals have to be realistic,
Achievable within a particular time?
You've got it. That's really what the article's saying. There isn't really any point in having ideals if group members know they won't come to anything within a reasonable period. So, I think a summary covering those points will be enough for that part of the presentation, don't you?
Yeah. Now, the last section is about conflict resolution.
Actually, I thought it was the worst part of the article.
Me too.
I don't think it went into sufficient detail on the issue.
Actually, I thought it devoted too much space to it, but that it was all rather boring,
It didn't mention some of the more radical theories.
Absolutely. I found that really irritating.
Right, and also I think it could have said more about conflict sometimes being healthy in groups.
Absolutely. It just mentioned rather glibly about how we should avoid thinking of winners and losers, and that quick resolution of conflict is always desirable.
Without explaining what these terms mean?
Well, it gives quite detailed definitions, but doesn't develop a proper argument.
Right. So, for the presentation, I think we just give some definitions and
then explain what we felt were the weaknesses in the article's treatment of conflict resolution.
Yeah, good.
Now you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
So, let's think about what we have to prepare for the actual presentation.
Well, I suppose we'll use PowerPoint, but I'm hopeless at using it, especially if it has any visuals. I really have to look into doing a course on it because I know I'll need it in the future.
Don't worry, I'm quite happy using PowerPoint and I'll put it together when everything else is ready.
That's a relief. But yes, do that later.
Okay. Now, I heard the tutor saying we have to include some well-chosen quotations from the article.
I'm not sure if we do. I'll email him to find out.
No need, I can just have a look at the specs he gave us when he set the task.
That'll be quicker.
But the tutor definitely said we have to prepare a handout to go with the talk. I'm not really sure how we do that.
Sarah did one last year.
Who's she?
She's doing the same option as me on marketing. I'll ask her advice on what to include.
Great. So that just leaves the bibliography at the end. I suppose it'll mainly be articles.
Yeah. So we'll just look on the web, and we can leave that till later.
But we've been advised against that?
Well, we could have a look through some journals in the library.
I think we should start by looking through module handbooks. I think that'll give us some good leads.
Yeah, you're probably right. So that's all the topics.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear a speaker giving a talk about some recent research about unusual life forms. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 6th of our ecology evening classes. Nice to see you all again. As you know from the programme, today I want to talk to you about some research that is pushing back the frontiers of the whole field of ecology. And this research is being carried out in the remoter regions of our planet, places where the environment is harsh and, until recently, it was thought that the conditions couldn't sustain life of any kind. But life forms are being found, and these have been grouped into what is now known as extremophiles. That is, organisms that can survive in the most extreme environments. And these discoveries may be setting a huge challenge for the scientists of the future, as you'll see in a minute. Now, the particular research I want to tell you about was carried out in Antarctica, one of the coldest and driest places on Earth. But a multinational team of researchers from the US, Canada, and New Zealand recently discovered colonies of microbes in the soil there where no one thought it was possible. Interestingly enough, some of the colonies were identified as a type of fungus called Bouveria bassiana, a fungus that lives on insects. But where are the insects in these utterly empty regions of Antarctica? The researchers concluded that this was clear evidence that these colonies were certainly not new arrivals. They might have been there for centuries, or even millennia. Possibly even since the last ice age. Can you imagine their excitement? Now, some types of microbes had previously been found living just a few millimetres under the surface of rocks, porous Antarctic rocks. But this was the first time that living colonies had been found surviving, relatively deeply in the soil itself, several centimetres down, in fact. So, the big question is, how can these colonies survive there? Well, we know that the organisms living very near the rock's surface can still be warmed by the sun, so they can survive in their own microclimate. And this keeps them from freezing during the day. But this isn't the case for the colonies that are hidden under the soil. In their research paper, this team suggested that the very high amounts of salt in the soil might be the clue, because this is what is preventing essential water from freezing. The team found that the salt concentration increased the deeper down they went in the soil. But while they had expected the number of organisms to be fewer down there, they actually found the opposite. In soil that had as much as 3,000 parts of salt per million, relatively high numbers of microbes were present, which seems incredible. But the point is that at those levels of salt, the temperature could drop to minus 56 degrees before frost would cause any damage to the organisms. This relationship between microbes and salt, at temperatures way below the normal freezing point of water, is a really significant breakthrough. As you all know, life is dependent on the availability of water in liquid form, and the role of salt at very low temperatures could be the key to survival in these kinds of conditions. Now, the process at work here is called supercooling, and that's usually written as one word, but it isn't really understood as yet, so there's a lot more for researchers to work on. However, the fact that this process occurs naturally in Antarctica may suggest that it might occur in other places with similar conditions, including on our neighbouring planet, Mars. So, you can start to see the wider implications of this kind of research. In short, it appears to support the growing belief that extraterrestrial life might be able to survive the dry, cold conditions on other planets after all. Not only does this research produce evidence that life is possible there, it's also informing scientists of the locations where it might be found. So all of this might have great significance for future unmanned space missions. One specialist on Mars confirms the importance of the interaction.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Hello everyone, welcome to Team IELTS Stream. I'm RP and you are watching the IELTS Listening Test channel. I'm super excited to announce that on your demand we have started series of writing task 1 and writing task 2. And if your dream is to achieve 8+, this video is for you. So watch my full video and you will get to know a load of beneficial things for you. Load of points. So are you ready? Here we go. So let's start with the statement. The chart below shows the main region for study among students of different age group and the amount of spot. There are two things over here. Main region for study. There are two regions over here mentioned over here. One is for career and the second one is for interest. And you can see over here for career and this is for interest. Most of the students were studying for career region, they wanted to make their career. Here you can see, but as the age grows, students are more interested in studying them for their interest, because of their interest, not because they are career oriented. All right, and this one you can click over here. This one is for image. You can click for image so that you can better understand the way I'm going to explain. So this one you can see it means spot, employer spot by age group, time off and help with fees. Alright, and here is percentage over here, 0 to 80% and here 0 to 70%. Alright, and these are age like under 26, or you can read it, and then under 26 or over 45. Over 45 mean more than 45. And they are older than 49 or 49, fine. So this is how I have started with introduction. The rendered bar graphs reveals the purpose of pupil behind continuing their study or pursuing their study. Why they are pursuing their study. Based on distinct age group, distinct in spite of different, I have written distinct over here. I have rephrased it. Along with the kind of support they received from employers. So that's how I have written introduction. Very nice, very effective introduction if you score higher. So this is how I have written overview. Overall it is notable. It is nice, very effective introductory sentence. The largest proportion of students pursue their studies because they were career oriented, as I told you over here. You can see they were career oriented, means they wanted to make their career, while the elder learners were involved in studies for their passion. As I told you over here, the elder learner you can see with blackish and black black bar. So here you can see elder learners were involved in studies for their passion, for their interest. Over here is for interest, I have written for passion. Moreover, the younger age group received more support from their employees. Here you can see, support under 26, you can see they got more support from employers. Alright, and the students who were 30 or 39 of age, they received less support, the least kind of supports from employers, you can see over here. Alright, so first of all I have written, this one was my overview, and this is how I have written BP1. So with regard to the region for study of students below 26 over here, you can see 80% or more than 80%. So exact 80% you can see over here, exact 80%. So 80% students were engrossed in study for their career, while mere 10% were interested in it. Here you can see just 10% students were studying because of their interest. So this is how I have started explaining or writing BP1. Interestingly, nice phrase to write another sentence. So interestingly, a decreasing trend was followed by people as they were becoming aged, as I told you, as I have shown you over here. A decreasing trend can be seen over here. So was followed by people as they were becoming aged, and the ratio of passionate learners escalated in spite of increased. Again and again we should write the word escalated in spite of increased for score higher. If you want to score higher, so you have to change, you have to show that you have huge language or great language, or you know the language of change, right? You know the language of change. You have to show that variety of vocabulary you have to use, different kind of word you have to use for score higher, to score higher, for scoring higher, or to score higher. So accounted for approximately 15% and more than 30% of 26 and 29 and 32 to 39 aged. Here you can see 26 to 29 and 30 to 39. It was just 15% for 26 to 29, and it was more than 20% for 30, more than fine 30% of 30 to 39 aged person respectively. So adults in their 40s were equally motivated for learning for both factors. Here you can see, so 40 to 49, and yes, similar proportion of students can be seen over here. They were interested in both for their career and for their passion. So here I have written, adults in their 40s were equally motivated for learning by both factors. Finally, elders were highly engaged in further learning as their passion. As you could see in the image you have clicked already. So click your image so that you can understand properly what I want to say to you. Clear my message, or to understand my message clearly. Okay, BP2, turning to the spot received. And here you can see I have written 40s. 40s means 40 to 49. So in spite of writing 40 to 49, I have rephrased it with 40s. 40s, it means it's a decade, means 40 to 49. 10 year I'm going to talk about. That's nice. So turning to the spot received by different age group, fewer than 26 aged students got more backing. As I told you over here, you can see. Again, you can see in your image, under 26, and they got the most spot. They were spotted by employers. They got the largest kind of spots from employer, more than 60%. So fewer than 26 age student got more backing, mean more spot, whereas the least spot is given to learner between 30 to 39 year old. Here you can see least spot has been given to 30 to 39. Here you can see least spot, they were not spotted very well, and their number is you can see less as compared to others. Okay, interestingly, over 49 age group received more assistance from employees in terms of time off and fee as compared to 40 to 49 aged, accounted for more than 40% and less than 40% respectively. So you can see the image again, and this is how I have written very effective sentence. After fewer than 29, employer were more sympathetic toward 26 to 29 age learner. So employer were more sympathetic toward it, means they were spotting more to the people who were in the age of 26 and 29. So this is how I have written very effective essay, effective bar graph. and hopefully it will be really beneficial for you. So this is the end of the video, but hit the like button and subscribe our channel for more videos. Bye bye.